Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Look Who's Cooking. My name is Jeremy Edwards, and I have a very special guest today. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure, Jeremy, I'm happy to be here. I'm Dr. Theresa Felder, and I'm the fairly new president of Harford Community College.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Now today we're going to do a very simple, vegan-friendly recipe today, and this is a good breakfast. We're going to do a tofu egg scramble, egg-like scramble, I should say.
Yes.
So the ingredients we have today, we have about 2 cups of fresh spinach. We have a nice red onion. If you want to use a white onion or yellow onion, that's your preference. You also have some nice baby bella mushrooms, but if you want to use shiitakes or oyster mushrooms or things of that nature, you know, that is also your preference as well. I have some nice cherry tomatoes, and I got the multicolored kind, but if you want to use yellows or the dark reds, or even just the regular basic tomatoes, you can use those as well. I have nutritional yeast, and you can use, you know, whatever branded or your favorite nutritional yeast that you like to use. And in addition to, I'm also going to throw in some zucchini, a yellow pepper, a little fresh thyme, and a little fresh parsley as well. In addition to salt, pepper, turmeric, and just a little avocado oil. If you want to use olive oil, or if you want to use palm tree oil or hemp seed oil, whatever you have and whatever your preference is. You can also do different variations to this menu according to what your preference is.
Right.
So let's give a little history behind why you became vegan or plant-based.
Sure, Jeremy. I like to say plant-based. Vegan is a little bit more specific. Plant-based is really more my eating lifestyle, and that simply means the focus of what I eat is plant-based. So that's fruits, vegetables. I also, foundational to my eating plan is beans and whole grains. So that's the focus, so it's plant-based. Vegan, again, is a little bit more specific in that it usually means you don't wear leather, you know, there's a lot more to it. So I prefer referring to myself as plant-based.
Yes, and anyone can pick up these recipes, even if you're a meat eater. You can always encompass meat proteins in this as well, but also the tofu that we're going to use is very high in proteins and vitamins and minerals as well. And you can also marinate or season tofu just like you would any piece of meat.
Except any flavor.
So you can grill it, and like you would on a grill, you can marinate it and do a teriyaki or a sofrito or things like that with the tofu. So whatever your desire is, whatever your flavor profile is, you can marinate and do those things with tofu like you would in any type of meat. Okay, so now to get started, before we start, I'm going to preheat my pan just to make sure it's ready, because we're going to saute everything. Because remember, this is a tofu scramble, so we need to get a nice hot saute pan and get that ready. So right now I did prepare a few things prior to. Like I said, I have my tomatoes already sliced and ready. I have my mushrooms already sliced and ready. I'm just going to go ahead and take a nice green zucchini, and I'm going to prepare that as well. So with that, just going to cut off the stems, cut off the end. Normally what I do, I just slice it in half because it prevents it from rolling around. You don't want it to roll because you know you might cut yourself, so you have to be careful. We did talk about knife safety before, so we need to remember that. And with that, I'm going to also cut this in half, or I should say quarters, and just get a nice size piece of zucchini. And this is the size that you're looking for because you want it bite-sized. You don't want super huge chunks in it. So we want to cut that. I say I'm going to only use half of the zucchini because I do have a lot of other vegetables that I'm going to throw in. And always remember, when it comes to cutting, you want to get that claw hand like we spoke about, making sure that your knuckles aren't, your fingertips aren't exposed, and your knuckles are used as a guide for the knife. So you're gripping it and just keeping the tip of your knife on the cutting board, just slowly rocking. But since I'm a professional, I can go a little faster.
Yeah, I'm not quite as fast with my cutting.
But that's good, because when you take your time, you prevent injury. And like I said, you can get the consistent cuts that you're looking for. So we're going to save that, put this in our bowl, and then we're going to add our yellow pepper. And then with that, I'm going to cut that in half as well. And remember, we're going to take the stem and the rib meat out because we don't want the seeds in it. With bell peppers, you're not going to get a lot of spice, but with other peppers like jalapenos or serranos or poblano's, The seed is going to have majority of the heat in it. And also the rib meat will have a lot of heat in it. So if you don't remove those and you bite into that seed, you're going to get that burst of spice.
I love that.
Well, some people, I like it too. I like spice.
I like
spice, not too much spice. I like it where it tastes good, but where I'm not sweating.
See, I like to sweat when I eat. So, yeah, I like the spice.
I remember one time I had some food and it was so good, but it was too spicy and I'm sweating profusely. I started crying a little bit, but it was so delicious and I couldn't stop.
Like, clears your sinuses.
It does.
That's a good thing.
And also, a lot of spice is good for your circulation too. So if you have circulation issues like cayenne pepper or even spicy foods are good for circulation if you have circulation issues. Now with the pepper, I'm just going to slice it at first. And then when I take the slices, I'm just going to dice them the opposite direction. Now, like remember with that, you always got to remember you have that claw hand because you don't want to cut your fingertips off. You don't want fingertips in your tofu.
No, not at all.
And with this, I'm going to take a half a bell pepper as well because like I said, we have a lot of vegetables going into this. Now, it doesn't have to be a complete uniform size, but as long as it's bite-sized and you know, you're not biting into a huge chunk of your bell pepper. But if you like your bell peppers that big, that's your preference. But for this particular recipe, we're gonna dice them as small as possible.
I love that this recipe is flexible, so you can put all your favorite vegetables in it. There's no real hard and fast rule as far as ingredients. Whatever you like, you can include in this recipe.
Even with that, you can use whatever vegan protein or plant-based protein that you like. So if you like temp, or if you want, you know, just plain vegetables, you can use that as well.
Very flexible.
Very flexible. Okay, so we have our peppers, we have our bell pepper, we have our onion. I'm going to do red onion. I don't like red onion because red onion tends to be more flavorful and it adds a little pepperiness to it. And with that, I'm just going to do the same. Just going to cut that in half. And when it comes to actually doing onions, you got to make sure you take that skin off. Because this skin is like paper and is not the best thing to bite into. So we're going to remove that.
I love the color too. That's another benefit of red onion is it's very colorful. And I like my food to be pretty. So by adding all of these different colors, yellow, green, red, it makes for a very pretty dish.
Yes, and one thing to always remember when it comes to making food, the more colorful it is, the more presentable it is. People always eat with their eyes first. They always see the food and then they smell it. So if things look pretty and colorful, and I've learned if food has height, it tends to be more visually appealing to people. And then people are like, oh, it's so colorful, let me take a bite.
And there's nothing more colorful than vegetables and fruit. Nothing more colorful. So it's a pretty way of eating as well, to be plant-based.
Now, when it comes to cutting onions, if you see how I'm doing it, remember having a claw hand, and you want to go with how the direction of the onion is, you kind of see these ribs or these ridges. You're just cutting into it, but not going all the way to the base of the onion where the root is, because that's just how we're going to dice our onion. So we're just going to go like this, and you kind of see where it fans out a little bit. And then now we're going to go the opposite direction, and now you're going to see the dice that we're looking for.
So you have a nice sharp knife as well, which helps.
Sharp knives are very important because if you have a dull knife, you can slip, you can cut your finger, or you're going to put so much force into cutting things, you could do yourself more damage than good. So yes, we're going to add our onion to it. And a half an onion should be sufficient enough as well, just because we do have a lot of vegetables going into this. So if you see a nice colorful vegetables, we have our reds, our yellows, our purples, our whites. You know, we have, of course, our browns and our greens and our multiple color reds and things of that nature. And I'm also going to prepare some fresh herbs too. So I have some fresh thyme. Now with the thyme, you see these very small leaves. You know, you don't want to individually pluck them because you'll be here all day doing it. So a lot of times what I do, I'll take a stem and just run my fingers down. And then you'll find that you'll get a lot of the herbs off. You know, sometimes you won't get them all, but you'll get majority of them. But thyme is a very subtle herb, but it adds a lot of flavor and aroma to it. So this will also be very fragrant, so when you're cooking it, you'll start to smell the thyme, and it'll perfume through the air, and it's going to be amazing. And with thyme, since the leaves are so small, you don't have to mince or chop them, but you can. You know, so you can leave the leaves whole because since we're going to saute them, they're going to cook down. They're going to get a lot tender.
Okay, very good.
So I'm just going to add a few thyme leaves just because it adds some aroma to it. And then I'm going to add some fresh parsley too, because fresh parsley is the same way as well. It's very subtle flavor, but it adds a uniqueness to it that we all love. So, and with that, I am going to mix all this together just because the parsley leaves, I don't want huge parsley leaves in the scramble. Okay. So I'm just going to take a few leaves there and just going to gently mince it. Now, when it comes to mincing, remember, you keep your hand on top of the knife, firm grip on the knife as well. Kind of keep your thumb at the hilt right here and just rock.
Right.
Now, you don't have to dice this all the way down, but just small enough to where you're not biting into a whole big leaf of thyme and parsley.
And you don't need a lot when you're using fresh herbs.
No, you don't.
Right?
And you don't need a lot when using fresh herbs. And also when using dry herbs, you're going to need a lot less than that because dry herbs are more potent.
Concentrated.
Yeah, they're concentrated. So if you're using fresh or dry thyme or dry parsley, you're going to need a lot less than what you normally use just because they're going to be a lot stronger in flavor. Okay, now since we have all our vegetables prepped and our pan is preheated and ready to go, we're going to start sauteing everything. And we're going to have our lovely assistant help us out with that.
Happy to.
Okay, so now since I have my pan heated, you're going to hand me actually the mushrooms.
The mushrooms
start the mushrooms first.
Okay, and is there a reason you start with mushrooms, Jeremy?
Because I like to actually get the sear on the mushrooms because if you sear a mushroom really good, it'll have that good golden brown color that you really want because it kind of keeps it from looking like mush. And also when it comes to cooking mushrooms, a lot of times if you don't sear it, it has that ugly gray color.
Gotcha.
So if you go on a really hot pan, you know it's going to sear really well. So I'm going to put this in first and then put my oil on top.
Gotcha.
So take my mushrooms.
Learning
and if you can hand me the avocado oil. And this is about 2 tablespoons. I put a little bit extra. So about 3 tablespoons of avocado oil. And you can use, like I said, olive oil or whatever oils you have in the house. As you can see, it's starting to smoke and look good up so far. And with the mushrooms, you want to let it sit because you want to get a sear on it. So searing is really just allowing it to rest in the pan, allowing the pan to cook everything. And you're stirring it on several occasions, but you're not constantly stirring.
Right, gotcha.
But you also have to watch it too. You don't want to burn it, but you want to allow it to do what it's supposed to do.
And you mentioned this, but you can use any kind of mushroom here.
Yeah, so if you like shiitake, if you like oyster mushrooms, if you like button mushrooms, these are baby portobello mushrooms. You can use the big portobello mushrooms.
Right.
Whatever your preference is. This scramble is very versatile when it comes to the type of vegetables you can use, even the flavor profile. You know, if you like it spicy, if you like it savory, if you like it a little on the sweeter side or what have you, you can put whatever spices that you prefer into it. But we're just going to do a basic scramble. So as you can see, this is actually what we're looking for. It has a nice golden brown color on the bottom of the mushroom. I'm going to allow that another 30 seconds, and then we're going to add our other vegetables.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, while you're doing that, I want to talk about the health benefits a little bit of being plant-based. I converted to plant-based now almost 3 years ago, and it was because of the health benefits. So my family has a history of heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes, and my cholesterol was inching up. So I made the decision to go plant-based for my health. And so I noticed right away, I lost some weight, was the first thing that happened, but my following doctor's appointment, my cholesterol started coming down.
And that's good. Now, I'm not plant-based, but I have over time incorporated a lot more plants and foods in my diet. So even though I love meat, I do enjoy a good vegan or plant-based cuisine because I feel as though a lot of the vegan and plant-based foods that I consume are packed with flavor. And I'm a flavor person. Like, I don't care if it's a falafel or even something like this, as long as it's seasoned well, I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not all or none. I just encourage folks to add more fruits and vegetables to your diet. It's not about what you can't eat, but it's adding those things that are healthy.
Yes. So now if you want to grab the other vegetables that we cut.
Okay.
We're going to add that to it as well. And if you want to add your tomatoes, we'll add the tomatoes as well.
Very pretty.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's very colorful right now with the different reds and the purples and things of that nature.
And the fragrance already.
Yeah. Now you're going to get that from the mushroom, and of course the onions are going to add its own flavor as well. And then of course we had our fresh herbs and everything like that. And we're going to do this for about 3 minutes or until our vegetables are tender. You don't want to overcook them, but you don't necessarily have to have raw vegetables.
Right.
But if the vegetables are raw, it's fine because they're vegetables. It's fine.
Now I can't do that. What Jeremy is doing right now.
Yeah, it takes practice. Because I've spilled plenty of things on the stove. It's just easier for me because I can flip everything around and still mix everything together. And you can see how colorful it is.
Yes, very pretty.
Now with this recipe, it seems like a lot, but I did double the recipe because I do have a hungry group of people here with us that you can't see behind the camera. But we want to feed everyone. But yes, I doubled the recipe. So I did incorporate a lot of vegetables.
You know, the nice thing is I do a little meal prep for the week. And this is a recipe that you can cook it, put it in smaller containers, and eat it throughout the week. So that's a good thing too.
And plus, like I said, since it's a breakfast item, it's like if you did meal prep it, you can microwave it or just eat it back up. You can make wraps and put it on top of an English muffin or make a sandwich out of it, whatever you feel like. Okay, so while that's cooking, we're going to actually get our tofu ready. Now with the tofu, I picked up about 2 pounds of firm tofu. Now they make various tofus as soft and firm and things of that nature. And that really just means how the texture of it and how much moisture you have in your tofu. Now prior to doing the tofu, I did have to drain the tofu because it does come in a liquid. So I let that sit in a drain pan or a colander or something like that. And then once I did that, I put it on a towel so the towel would soak up majority of the liquid. Because liquid is what's going to happen is it's going to add too much moisture to your pan and it's going to either make the food not have the color that you're looking for or it's going to end up boiling your vegetables as opposed to sauteing your vegetables. So you definitely want to get rid of most of that as well. So I'm going to give it about like a good 30 seconds. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and crumble up this as well. And I'm just going to crumble it up straight into my pan. Now, since it's soft enough to do with your hands, you don't need a knife, you don't need special equipment. As long as you have a good firm grip, you can just crumble it up right into the pan. So I'm going to take the entirety of this.
And I do eat a lot of tofu because it's a great protein source. So I have a tofu press that actually I put my tofu in and it presses the water out. You just, over time, you just tighten it until you get most of that moisture out. It is a great source of protein.
And with protein, how you season it, or you can even marinate it. It will come out with that flavor profile that you're looking for. So now since we have that, we're going to add our seasonings. So our seasonings we have about 1/4 tablespoon of turmeric. The turmeric not only has its own health benefits because it's anti-inflammatory and things of that nature, it's going to give it that yellow, eggy color that you're looking for. Be careful with turmeric though, because it does stain.
It does.
So
I love turmeric.
So your fingernails, I got some on my fingers. Your fingernails and your fingers may be discolored from it. So you know, some lemon juice or vinegar will help get some of that out. So we're gonna add that. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt and pepper, and I use white pepper and some just regular table salt. And we're just doing that to taste. Remember with salt and pepper, you can always add salt and pepper after it's done, but once you put it on, it won't come out. So you have to be careful when it comes to how salty you're making your food. And last but not least, I'm going to add my nutritional yeast. So it's just the yeast flakes that we have. And, it does have nutritional values too, but it also adds what you call an umami flavor. So it adds kind of an eggy, cheesy type flavor to whatever it is that you're putting in it. So if you did a vegan mac and cheese or eggs or anything that you want a cheese profile, nutritional yeast is the way to go. About a half a cup of nutritional yeast that I added to this. And it will give it the cheesy flavor that you're looking for when it comes to the scramble.
Yes. You know, a lot of folks, one thing that they don't, when you're making that transition from meat products or animal products, a lot of people say, don't want to give up eggs. And so this recipe really makes you feel like you're eating eggs. It looks like scrambled eggs. I think it tastes like scrambled eggs. So it's a great alternative to eating the traditional scrambled egg breakfast.
Yes, and as you can already see, it's starting to look like eggs.
Yes.
See, because the nutritional yeast and the turmeric gives it the color, of course, and it is going to have that flavor that you're looking for at the end of the day.
That's great.
And listen, it smells amazing. If we had smell-o-vision, I wish you guys could smell it. It smells amazing. Yeah. I'm just going to let that simmer for a little longer. You know, I'm going to, at the end, so I'll give it another 30 seconds. And then we're going to add our spinach at the last minute. Now with spinach, we all know with spinach, even though we have about 2 cups of spinach, it's going to cook down. And it's going to be almost next to nothing. So even though it may crowd your pan, just give it a few minutes, and then it's going to fit in perfectly. So I'm going to add that now. I'm just going to dump all of this in there. All right.
So there's all kinds of nutritional benefits from spinach as well. Iron, and all of that, those good things to help build your immune system.
Yes. So the dark leafy greens are always the way to go when it comes to maintaining good health.
Right.
So if you talk about kale or spinach or collards or things of that nature, the darker the green, the better, because it's packed with nutritional value. And if you're one of those people like myself who likes to drink their vegetables, you can always put that in the blender and make a smoothie with maybe like some bananas and some mangoes and things of that nature. You know, whatever your preference is. Making a mess. So with the spinach, we just want to do this until it wilts, because it's pretty much almost done.
Right.
And like I said, we just want to make sure everything wilts and the spinach cooks down. You also need to be careful when it comes to spinach as well. The spinach creates its own water.
Right.
But in this instance, it might be okay because we have a lot of the seasoning and things on the bottom of the pan, or what they call the fond, that's stuck to the bottom of the pan. So that water is going to help loosen that and incorporate all the seasoning back onto the food.
Okay. So you kept the temperature up fairly high as you're cooking it.
Because I kept it high because I didn't want I wanted the moisture in the vegetables to evaporate and cook off. Because I didn't want to boil everything. I wanted to have a good sauté so I can have a nice color and things of that nature. Right. As you can see, those spinach are starting to wilt. All right. So at this point, I think we're finished. So now it comes to the fun part, plating. So I'm going to turn this off, and then we're going to get situated when it comes to plating. Okay, everyone. So we finally finished our tofu scramble. So now when it comes to the wonderful part, it's plating.
My favorite part.
So we're going to take this, and as you can see, the color is what you're looking for. It actually looks like real eggs scrambled with various vegetables. So we're just going to take our spoon. And just want to put on a plate. Now with this, you can add this with other breakfast items that you want. You know, if you like your certain breads or breakfast meats or faux meats, I should say. If you want to make a burrito or a breakfast tacos or whatever your preference is. This is like a basic scrambled egg with vegetable, but this is plant-based and vegan friendly for all those that have specific dietary needs.
Yeah, and I like to add potatoes, breakfast potatoes, crispy potatoes. It makes it very filling, so you really will not leave the table hungry. Yes,
and me personally, I will put some jalapeno in it, or you know, even like if I had some vegan cheese, I like mine a little cheesy and things of that nature. So I would put that as well. But you know, everybody has their own preference when it comes to how they like their eggs or their breakfast foods, or even how they season things. So like this is a basic a recipe that we all can use, and you can add any of the various things that you like to it. And you know, like I said, this is one of those things that's easy for everyone to do. The whole family can enjoy, and it will incorporate more healthy vegetables in your life. And health is also the key this year. We have to make sure we're maintaining our health, okay? So I want to thank you guys for joining us. My name is Jeremy Edwards, and I'd like to thank Dr. Felder.
Jeremy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to be here. This was a great experience. I hope we get to do it again.
I hope so.
Yes. But I'm excited about sharing ways to just add more health to your diets and to your lifestyle. And as Jeremy said, I think we all learned in the last year, our health is very important. So just make a commitment to add more fruits and vegetables in this year as you make adjustments to your lifestyle.
Yes. Well, I want to thank everyone to another episode of Look Who's Cooking, and I hope we see you again soon.
Yes, and just a quick update on the college. I just want to mention that we are starting to open back up gradually. So our continuing ed courses offer cooking classes amongst anything that you want to experience, anything that you're interested in. It's almost certain you can find a continuing ed course of your interest. And also, again, we're going to be inviting our students back on campus soon, so we're gradually opening up with safety in mind. But watch for more news about our reopening as we go into our summer semester and into our fall.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You guys have a good one.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you so much.
Let's try it.
All right.
It smells good.
Yeah. Delicious. Great job, Jerry.
Thank you.